All right, thank you very much for tuning in. We're going to talk about this guy here, Jeff Evely. He's a candidate for the People's Party of Canada, right? It's a political movement, and they're a little bit on the moral, they're a little bit morally better than the Liberals or whatever. They're a little bit more advanced, more conservative than the PCs or whatever, the Tories or the Progressive Conservatives. So this guy's a candidate, right? And this guy, should we? Well, look at this guy. He's just got a $25,000 fine, and he's shaking the guy's hand that has no problem in ruining his life, right? So this whole thing, he's smiling and all this stuff, right? Because why? All right. So basically, there's a $25,000 fine if you walk in the woods, right? If you walk in the woods, you're going to get a $25,000 fine, literally, $25,000 fine, right? And he went into the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, and walked in the woods in front of them, and he was basically begging for a ticket, right? So that's okay. If you want to challenge the government and all this stuff, you actually need to have the fine and all this stuff. So he did get the $28,000 fine and all this stuff, right? But that's not what really irks me. What really irks me is that these people have no moral compass at all, and they will just let this guy have basically have his financial future ruined, right? And you have to pay the government for walking in the woods, right? Literally walking in the woods, right? Was another one of those I'm not saying I agree with that. It's kind of a little bit you cannot walk in the woods and all this stuff. It's a totalitarian dictatorial mandate or whatever. Is it on constitutional? Probably. But this guy so literally got himself a ticket on purpose, and then look at this guy. He's shaking the hands of the officers. He's shaking the hands of the officers that gave him a ticket, right? He's like, "Oh yeah, no hard feelings, man. Yeah, thank you, gentlemen," and all that stuff. And he's shaking the hands like there's some sort of friends, right? These guys are not your friends, right? These guys are not your friends, right? They are, they are, certainly the opposing, hostile, enemy, right? So anyway, but these guys, he's all like, "Yeah, thank you very much," and that I just want to show you the part where um, he shakes the guy's hand. Anyway, he got himself a whole bunch of worldwide attention, right? This guy's on the news all over the world, basically for doing this kind of stuff. I thought it was 25,000. No, it's 28,000 for victims of taxes. Don't worry too much about the actual penalty. Like he doesn't really need to pay that. So, but look, thank you very much, gentlemen. Look, he's there shaking his hand. I appreciate your courteous approach. What? Nice chatting with you and all this stuff. What? Nice chatting with you. Yeah, just gave him a $28,000 fine, right? This is, economic warfare or whatever you want to call it. I mean, this is certainly. Anyway, he's a. I'm not. But look at this guy, $28,000 fine for walking in the woods, right? And the Department of Environmental and Natural Resources, they're like, yeah, that's oh, Daddy, what did you do at work today? I gave this guy a $28,000 fine. Oh, really? That's great. Yeah, that's what an honorable job my daddy has, right? Which is really truly concerning, right? Imagine if my son were to look at me and I was and he's got himself on the news and all this stuff, walking about a fine and all this stuff. So this dishonorable Department of Environmental and Natural Resources guy, right? Very very dishonorable guy. And I just I can imagine his son being all like, "Hey, Daddy, what did you do at work today? I gave this guy a $28,000 fine just for walking in the woods, right? It's dishonorable, right? And that he's there shaking the hand. No, good to chat with you, gentlemen. And he's garnering a whole bunch of attention, right? So what's his mandate, right? Should we support this guy? All right. Well, it sounds okay. Immigration moratorium. So he wants to eliminate the trade barriers, the internal trade barriers, foreign aid moratorium. Okay, ban sex changes for youths. All right, so if your daughter is like, 12, 13, 14 years old, all right, right now, because of your property taxes, right, you're paying for literally the double mastectomy, right? Double mastectomy. That means they will remove her breasts, a young lady's breasts, and she's now a man, right? Because they have affirmed the gender, right? But what about pro-life, right? Where's this pro-life thing, right? Well, let's ask. Well, so I did. I messaged this guy, Jeff Evely, right? I messaged him and I was all like, "Hey, are you pro-life or pro-choice?" Right? So let's see here. Jeff Evely. He calls me Claire for some reason. I'm not Claire. I'm John. So he's thanks for watching out or reaching out, I should say, watching out, reaching out. This is an important issue that goes to the heart of ethics and morality. So my position in the party is that abortion after 26 weeks should be banned. Okay. Not only is the fetus viable, right, after 26 weeks, but the nervous system is developed to the point they will suffer if aborted, right? An ethical society is one that mitigates suffering, not one that inflicts in on the most vulnerable among us. Canada is the only developed country with no regulation of abortion, and we need to do much better for our children. Yeah, because of Morgenthaler, which I did mention in my previous video. All right, so this guy thinks it's okay to have an abortion before 25 weeks, right? Well, what does a baby look like? What does a baby look like at 25 weeks of age, right? Here's a baby. Here's a cutie beauty. Here, she's alive and well, and she was born at 25 weeks. So he's saying that we can abort this baby, right? These babies are perfectly, at 25 weeks. Now, according to him, we should be able to, what? I mean, this guy's a lunatic. Are you serious? What? Anyway, that's the point of this video, right? This guy, is straight from the horse's mouth, right? This is sent from the bell. We asked Sam not to sing. We asked Sam not to sing, but Sam sung anyway. Right? It's a joke. It's a dad joke. All right. So Jeff Avely's position is flawed for a few key reasons. A reasonable person must not support. We cannot support this guy. We cannot support this guy. Right? We cannot support his campaign for some people. Right? Some people. Right? Only the people at 25, weeks in gestational. In gestation, 25 weeks or below, we don't care about them because they can be killed, right? We can literally kill them, according to Jeff Evely here. Limiting protection to fetuses after 26 weeks creates an arbitrary moral threshold that isn't grounded in the fundamental principle of human dignity from the moment of conception, right? Right? Scientifically, a human embryo is a distinct living organism from fertilization onward, with its own DNA growth trajectory and biological continuity towards birth. His stance effectively concedes that before 26 weeks, it is permissible to end a human life, despite the fact that the earlier fetus is just as human as the latter one. The difference lies only in stage of development, not in essence. That's the same flawed reasoning used in many viability arguments, which shift with technology and geography, right? So viability can occur earlier in some hospitals than others, right? So don't worry too much about that. But the thing about that is, if you vote for this guy, you're literally voting for just the continuation of they're going to take your property taxes, right? They're going to take your property taxes. They're going to pay abortionists with your property taxes, right? So that's this guy's legacy, right? So that's why we cannot support this guy. We cannot, right? So if this guy comes to his senses and say, "Hey, listen, Claire. I totally made a mistake. You're right about this. I got a genome activation there. It is true that the human embryo is the most precious, most valuable thing in existence, right? And for me to suggest otherwise is folly and shameful, and we should, totally, concede to the fact that I was wrong, and I admit my error, and I'm a pro-life candidate now. So then I will vote for this guy, and I will. And let's say, for example, I will stop the municipal governments from taking your property taxes and funding, abortionists like Dr. Michel Dow, who are paid to destroy the fabric of the nation, right? So that's then I will be like, okay, well, I'm going to vote for you, right? So, but as for now, I cannot vote for him because he thinks that abortions after 26 weeks should be banned. Like, yeah, of course they should be banned, but abortions before 26 weeks should be banned as well, right? What about the committee, the abortion committee there, where they will treat every case by the specific, facts of that case, of a case by case scenario where, okay, listen, is it really necessary that we kill this baby here? Is it really, really necessary that we kill this baby, right? This is a committee, right? And many countries have this committee where they will assess, and these are, terrible, terrible situations where it's necessary and must be done, right? Not something that we should celebrate, right? This is a terrible situation, that this is the life of a baby, that for some medical reason must die. But a whole bunch of babies are dying because the mother, is inconvenienced or something like that, right? So anyway, this Jeff Evely guy, right? Anyway, I'll see you.